Hello, hello out there. Welcome. Amy Takaya here. Today I'm going to be speaking with a very special woman named Jade Sobanski. So Jade and I went to our Somatic Educator training together, and she's also a brain health coach. So we're going to hear a little bit from her today, not only about her story, but also how she combines brain health coaching and Somatics to help her clients experience the best mental, emotional, and physical well-being that they can. On today, Jade, starting to arrive. There we are. Hi. Hi, lovely.
Hey. Hey, Amy. It's great to see you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, you're in Chicago right now, right?
I am. I am in Chicago.
Are you having a good time? Is it beautiful there?
It's just the absolute best, and every minute of this trip has gone better than expected so far, and I'm the happiest I've ever been. It's great.
Oh, well, we caught you at a great time. I'm so glad we're doing this right now. Super.
Me too.
Well, I was just giving everybody a little introduction about how you and I met each other at our Somatic Educator training, and we've been close friends and colleagues since. And a little bit about your background in brain health coaching. I remember that when you first started getting into brain health coaching, you got certified through the Amen Institute, but that was just like the starting point for you because there's so many other people that are also doing this kind of work. And so I know that you've really broadened your landscapes since that time. So maybe you want to tell everybody a little bit about yourself and how you got into brain health coaching and Somatics.
Of course. Awesome. So like Amy just said, my name is Jade, and I'm checking in from Chicago. I do live in Southern California. It's just a special thing that I'm here now. And I feel like since the time I was 9 years old, I've been fascinated by neuroscience. Dr. Amen actually wrote a book called Making a Good Brain Great. I want to say that. I'm pretty sure it's Making a Good Brain Great. And as a little 9-year-old, I wasn't reading this. My mom was reading it. And one of the lines said that he could tell what kind of manager you were based off of your brain scan. And this just blew my little 9-year-old mind. And at the time, I was having really strange dreams and really weird experiences when I would go to sleep at night. And I figured that those weird experiences must have been generated by my brain and not my liver or any other organ or my heart, which, now fast forward like a decade and a half, the research is actually pointing to maybe it is something different. But I fell in love with neuroscience when I was 9 years old, and I've never let go of this idea that neuroscience is going to shape our future. And in 50 years, people are going to be like, what do you mean mental health professionals would just prescribe medication without looking at their brains? That's insane, because it is insane. So yes, I did get my brain health certification through Amen University, but this movement is so much bigger than that. And there's just a world of neuroscience and neuroscientific information that I would encourage people to dive in.
Right. Yeah. So for you, I remember, I went to one of Dr. Amen's seminars with you, and that was my introduction to this. And you were talking about the shift, and he talks about this too, from talking about mental health to talking about brain health, from switching it from kind of this moralizing aspect that we get into when we think of our mental and emotional experiences separate from our body, and what changes for us. And maybe you can speak to this, what changes for us when we start looking at the biological processes that are behind some of our experiences.
Right, right. So Thomas Hanna says that all life lived is a somatic experience, meaning that life happens in your body. And I actually just went to a convention in Arizona this past weekend, and something came to me, this idea that, your thoughts might lie because your mouth is in cahoots with your mind, but your body never will. And that's kind of the premise of the work that I do, or I'd go so far as to say the work that we do as somatic educators, of reminding people that we're in our bodies, and you really can't separate your mind from your body too much. And yet it's a lot more comfortable to say, I have a sprained ankle, I can't come out dancing tonight, than it is to say, I'm depressed and I'm bummed out and I don't want to get out of the house today and I actually just can't get out of bed. And I think that languaging is a huge piece around this, because what is somebody actually saying when they're saying they're depressed or they're upset or they're having a bad day. They don't know this, but what they're saying, most of the time they don't know this, but what they're saying is my limbic system is being overactive right now. I'm having a surge of automatic negative thoughts due to excessive firing in certain parts of my brain that tend to be more hyperactive. And so the biggest movement that I think that we're going to see and that I'm proudest to be a part of is the shift from there's no such thing as mental illness. Because even calling it mental illness implies that you can will yourself out of how you're feeling, or that you might, there's something you can think your way out of certain situations. But anxiety, depression, PTSD, bipolar disorder, temporal lobe dysrhythmia, which is also called schizophrenia, these are all physical brain health issues that we can measure and prove with science now. There's no question about it. There's no such thing as mental illness. So.
Yeah. Wow. That's a powerful statement. I mean, I think that what I got from it, and, you know, this is something I feel when I'm with you and in your presence, is that that's a really empowering message to give people. And it also shifts the focus from like, there's something wrong with me to, oh, there's an issue I'm having with a certain part of my body that can be addressed in a practical way. And that is not just hopeful, but, you know, now it's like, okay, now who do I go see? Who can help me with this? You know, and as a brain health coach, you're looking at a variety of things. Like you said already, you're looking at people's behavior, you know, what they're telling you, and you're able to kind of get an idea of what parts of their brain might be overactive based on the things they're saying. But beyond that, you also ask them about what they're eating. Is that true?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, keto is fantastic, and anyone can read the research on it, but it's not going to work for everybody. And there's different parts of our brains that respond differently to different things. So the biggest example that sticks out to me is keto is best for people who have any sort of temporal lobe issue. And there's sort of like a PEMDAS when it comes to the brain structures, in that you have many different brain structures, and they could either be functioning too much, not enough, or just right. And in a perfect situation, everything's functioning just right, but it's 2022 and not everybody has access to that sort of neurological profile. And so if something is overactive, why would you want to eat something that is going to make the overactive structure even more overactive and cause even worse problems? Which is, I mean, sugar is just
And you mean like sugar, like sugar separate from fiber? Like you don't necessarily mean an apple. What do you mean when you say sugar, I guess?
Yeah, simple sugars, simple carbohydrates, processed sugars, of course. But even simple carbohydrates that break down into sugar, so like breads and pastas and stuff.
Yeah.
And yeah, so it's good to learn about the different brain structures and just be on the lookout and know what your brain type is and plan for that and eat around that. Like I learned that I'm my best self if I have 8 servings of vegetables every day.
That sounds like me too, actually. Yeah, or more. Yeah. And then like more complex carbohydrates, you know, because this is a passion of mine, and I've been, you know, doing a lot of my own personal experimenting in my body with this. And it sounds like you do that too. You hear these things and then you try it out and you see what it's like in your body and then go, oh, this makes sense. This is working for me, right? That's kind of the process that we're going through as like, even as somatic educators, we experience all of it in our bodies first before we're out there, you know, telling people about it, right? But I have been so interested in the microbiome, in our gut health, and how that relates also to our brain health, because it's in direct relationship to our brain. And so the things that we're taking in, like you said, foods and different, you know, systems of eating is going to have a direct effect on our brain through our gut, right? And right. So looking at that together it's just fascinating to me that there's all these different lenses and ways of looking at the different systems in our body. But at the end of the day, they're all connected and they're all working together. And that's that holistic piece that, you know, really I have started to fully understand through being a somatic educator. And so I'd love to hear, maybe you can tell us how you combine these two things, how you combine what you know about the brain health and the things you were just talking about, and how you combine that with your work as a somatic educator and teaching people movement that's going to free them up. You can say something about that.
Of course. I've observed it's super interesting that if anybody has something going on with their mind that they'd like to straighten out, maybe getting doused with self-doubt or, overthinking things or worry or stress or brain fog, any of the mind stuff, I found that the fastest way to get there is to go through body stuff. But then sometimes it's the reverse where the body is in pain and the fastest way to get there is through mind stuff. And so being a somatic educator is really comfortable because you can kind of go back and forth with those different things depending on the client, depending on the session of the day of the week and the season of life that they're in. And one of the fastest ways I've seen people get better is by going through Hana somatic movements 3 times in 10 days. And that's super specific, but this is just what I've observed, that the clients that can really get in and make the time for 45 to 90 minutes at a time of somatics. And then what's super interesting is it's almost like it wakes up in their body, and then they start to speak to me about what else is going on. Then they start to say, oh, I need to clean up my diet. Can you help me with that?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm going through a breakup. Can you help me with that? Oh, and so it's like once we get them to a state where they can physically remember how to be at ease, their brain automatically populates, oh, this should also be at ease. I didn't know that my body could improve. Why don't I also think about improving my diet or my relationship or my financial situation?
Oh, this is so true. Yeah, I've experienced this too with my clients. Yeah.
Yes, and the other thing too, and this is a fast thing, but it's not at all easy, is working with people and supporting them through elimination diets. So cutting out dairy, soy, corn, gluten, and sugar, as in processed sugar. Fruit is kind of okay. If you want to be ridiculously extreme, sometimes people want to also cut out fruit and just leave.
Right. Well, depending on their brain issue,
right?
Is that it?
Yeah. Some people only want to do. It's best for them to just do dark berries like raspberries, blackberries, boysenberries, stuff like that. And the elimination diet is tough because once you take away those 5 things, that's a lot of modern convenient living, and that really is stripping you down to whole foods. And so I actually was able to do the full 3-week elimination diet once in my life. And this was after I had attempted it 2 times before. And so I think that one thing that I really hate to see is when people try things once or twice and it doesn't work, and then they just write themselves off as, oh, this isn't going to work out for me. I'm not going to try this elimination diet. Meanwhile, their wellness could be right on the other side of that next try, right on the other side of, just one more attempt. And so I had a client once that was kind of about to give up and not even try or attempt. She I think it was day 12 or 14. Something. I know she didn't make it into week 3 on this one try, and she's like, you know what, I'm just giving up. And then we really sat there and talked about, why don't you just allow your 3-week elimination diet to be a bad attempt this time around? And then next time around, like, what needs to happen? Did you already preface the people that you're living with and warn them and say, this is what I'm doing? Did you tell the 5 people in your life that you're closest to why you're doing this?
Right. Were you prepared with like having the right kind of foods in the house and, meal planning and all that kind of stuff, right? Is that what you mean? Like kind of like, let's see if I can do it better next time versus this isn't for me, I'm giving up. I'm so curious about the elimination diet. So when you're working with that, and I'm assuming it's for like a specific brain challenge, right? That you're for a certain kind of issue that you're talking about here. And what did you experience when you did that, when you succeeded in the elimination diet? What did you experience? What's kind of the end result of shifting in that way? Do you stay limited in that way, or do you kind of add things in slowly to kind of, how does it work?
Yeah. So at present, I'm at a point in my life somatically where I think of my somatic health, or I think of my health in somatic terms, in that I do not consider myself healthy if just my body is healthy, but I'm really stressed out, or if I'm really stressed, but my body's functioning. I kind of have high standards for myself in that regard. And what's really nice is that I imagine it as I've built this reserve. I've built this nice somatic reserve for years and years and years and years, where I don't fall for the same. Oh my God, I was so addicted to sugar. Holy smokes. I had cravings. It was all I thought about when we were in school and I was just like stressed and studying. I would like use food as a reward. I had such a weird relationship to sugar. And now, years and years later, it's really not like that, where I have this nice reserve of like, okay, I am building up my body with fruits and vegetables, mostly vegetables, and foods that are going to nourish me and support me. And I want such a strong base that, okay, maybe I can have the occasional or maybe I can have the occasional alcoholic beverage or whatever. And so from a brain health coach perspective, what the textbook will tell you and what I've seen in practice is you don't really want to go above 2 drinks at a time or 4 drinks a week. And so
for your brain and other parts of your body.
So if you are going to drink, that's kind of the way that it is the most beneficial to your brain. I mean, obviously it's not beneficial to your brain whatsoever. The fact that alcohol attacks every single cell in your body. It's the only substance out there that will hurt every cell because it targets the membrane, which every cell has. Unlike some of these other drugs that just bind to certain receptors and do their own thing.
Yeah, right. Well, that's the tricky thing here. I want to add, because as you're talking here, I'm like thinking about this in microbiome terms. So like with sugar, if you have been consistently eating a lot of processed sugar for a long time, you have built up a certain kind of bacteria in your body called candida that is feeding off that sugar, that is like actually starving for it and needs it. And so it's compelling you to eat more of it. Right. And so you actually have, it's not just Jade. It's like Jade's microbiome is like, feed me sugar. So when you go on an elimination diet and you stay away from sugar, you actually kill off that bacteria, you kill off the population of it. So then it doesn't have as strong a pull on you, which is what you're describing, which is now you have this reserve, or that reserve could be described as a healthier microbiome through consumption of more fruits and vegetables, right? That have now created a balance in your gut that is your baseline experience, instead of your baseline experience being a fungus called candida that is screaming for you to eat more M&Ms. Right. So it's fascinating. Like also the other thing here that you said that I just loved was it's really about, the long-term process, right? And creating that, because you said for years you've been creating this foundation for yourself. So it's not something that happens overnight. And so if someone is struggling with it, their first, third, or fourth, or fifth attempt, instead of seeing it as like a failure, like you said before, it's like, oh, this is part of the learning process. This is part of how we like make a little bit of progress here and there, that's part of a larger picture of our well-being over time. And that's such a, it's a message that allows for, the term that comes to mind, pardon my French, is like, it allows for fuck ups and freedom.
I love that.
Because you're human. And like, of course, sometimes it's like, oh, I just really want to, join in this festivity and eat what everybody else is eating, even though I know it's not that great for my body. But like, if you do that and then feel like a really bad person or feel like a failure, it's like, now you've hurt yourself twice, instead of just like enjoying the thing and then realigning the next morning or the next day and saying, hey, I know what really helps me. Let me just go ahead and eat some whatever, some sweet potatoes or some, salad or whatever it is that, helps you.
And I absolutely love what you're saying, because it reminds me that not everyone has access to that. Not everyone has access to that line of thinking. Some people have overactive structures in their brain that are not letting them see beyond this limited viewpoint. I mean, there's another brain health coach that always talks about how when people commit suicide, it's because they literally don't see any other option. And survivors of suicide attempts will talk about this, about how it didn't seem like there was an option. And it's kind of like people don't consider altered states of consciousness as much as they should, because, you know, obviously when we do imbibe and drink, and then all of a sudden, like, if you like moving a certain way, you know, we can tell when people are drunk, it's because their brain is operating at a different level, a different, you know, it's dousing itself in different chemical reactions than a regular brain. But these things that we think of as mental illness are the same.
Right.
And,
wow.
I mean, I think everybody by now has heard of the amygdala, which is the part of the quote unquote lizard brain. And so this structure reminds us that our brains are not wired to keep us happy. They are wired to keep us safe. And our brains would much rather us be safe and feeling like shit about ourselves rather than putting ourselves out there or, you know, trying it again, because there's this little thing in our brain that says, you know, this hurt you really bad before, and who are you to think about this? And so I would hope that we just are more mindful of that moving forward. Just
right.
thinking about, like, what brain are you working with today? Yeah.
Oh yeah, because it's changing all the time, right? That's what we see when we start living more somatically, is that we're not static, we're not fixed. We're like, our nervous system is responding and interacting with our environment, and not just our external environment, but our internal environment, our thoughts and our feelings, and just what you described about our amygdalas and like the things that have happened in the past and the things we imagine are going to happen in the future. All of that is having an impact on our physical body and on our experience that we're having.
Or why are we not talking about the elephant in the room? I was thinking about this last night. Why don't we teach female physiology at the elementary level or the middle school level or the high school level? Every single person you've ever interacted with ever came from a woman, came from the female hormonal cycle. And there's a structure in your brain called the ACG, and I'm saying it like that on purpose. I'm specifically not saying anterior cingulate gyrus because I want to stay away from
I know what that is. I'm a geek, so I know what that is. I have an overactive one sometimes.
Yes. And what happens a few days before a woman's menstrual cycle, before that, yes, you know where I'm going with this already, like the ACG lights up, and the ACG finds errors in patterns. And when it works too hard, you find all of the errors. And even though they might be true, it might not serve you in that moment to like focus on the smallest of details that's going wrong when there's everything else is going right. And so I think that being mindful of a woman's hormonal cycle is just, man, the fact that we don't focus on that enough, or like at all, we are leaving so much on the table as far as communication and connection and moving us forward and letting go of struggle. Because hormones, man, yeah, women really, we have it tough. And like, you know, Planned Parenthood or your doctor or education will like be quick to be like, get on birth control. But what they don't tell you is that it just robs your entire store of serotonin and takes away your ability to be happy.
Oh my gosh. Wow. I'm not sure. I don't think I knew that.
Oh yes. Oh yes. Yes. And
wow.
there are certain brain types that are more susceptible to that effect.
Okay.
But it's safe to say that, you know, some of these modern day miracles are coming at a cost.
Yes. Well, yeah, I've heard things about that before. And, you know, what you just described about the, you know, ACG and its overactivity, once you have some knowledge about that, once you're like aware of an actual physical, biological part of your body that is responsible for a certain thing that we would normally label like a behavior or a personality characteristic or something, right? But it's actually a physical, like tangible part of your body. And it, you know, and then someone like you could, you know, coach somebody about how to eat, knowing
right.
that you're going to have that experience around your period. Here are foods that will make that experience more extreme, and here are foods that will help you mellow out. Is that how you do it, kind of?
Yeah, definitely.
Absolutely. I love that.
I know. It's such an interesting time to be paying attention to all this. And one of my favorite jokes, I forget which comedian said this, but she said, finding out you have a mental illness is so weird because it's like, oh, there's nothing wrong with me. There's just something wrong with me. I think the best book written on mental health, and anyone can fight me on this, is called Undoing Depression by Richard O'Connell or Richard O'Connor. I always mess that up, but it's a very famous book. There's like 9 editions, but it's called Undoing Depression. And I recommend this book to anyone who knows they have a mental illness, suspects they have a mental illness, thinks they know someone with a mental illness, or confirmed knows somebody with a mental illness. And I know what you're thinking as I say that. Oh, Jade, you're recommending this to everyone, which I am.
Required reading.
which is I am. I do wish that I'm like, why did they make us read freaking Great Gatsby like 6 times when we could have read Undoing Depression at least once? But I want to back up for a second and say, actually, I do believe some people are not mentally ill. And you know, when I was in the thick of my own journey and I felt like I was just bumping into and working with everyone, I thought that everyone was to an extent depressed. And I thought everyone to an extent had some sort of anxiety condition going on or whatever. But now at present on, what is this? This is Friday, April 29th, 2022. I do believe in mental wellness and mental ease. I do think that I do think that there are some people out there who don't think about this. I want to believe that there's all these, it does exist, that there is, you know, someone who came from like a stable home and is
right. Oh. Well, and what I found and what I am experiencing in my own world lately is that even if, you know, whatever the background or the genetics or the like issue, you know, the things that happen in your life that you came from, you can always improve on where you are. Like you can, you know, mental wellness can be experienced even by someone who has struggled with mental challenges for a long time with the right kind of education and support and healing. We can, you know, overcome is such a strange word because it's not really to me like overcoming as much as integrate. We can integrate these parts of ourselves that have had so much strife, and we can blend them back into who we are in a loving way that allows for us to experience what you're describing, which is, you know, that I'm not spending all of my time thinking about anxiety and depression because I'm experiencing less of it based on how I'm living my life and the things that I am surrounding myself with, the kind of education and all the things I just mentioned, the practices. And there's, you know, I think that each person can determine for themselves through trial and error, through experimentation, what's going to be their specific recipe for wellness, you know, and getting exposed to different ideas and reliable tools and science-backed, evidence-backed systems that can help them understand themselves. Then they're going to be able to navigate and discover, you know, what's my personal recipe for wellness? You know, what is the way of eating for me that is sustainable, that helps me feel my best, you know? And it's that kind of, I guess, combination of intuition and being informed that I think is where it's at for me. That's what's been working for me is that building that body awareness, that intuition, and then also getting informed and experimenting and just in a process of discovery and curiosity. So yeah, that's where I land on it. And I think you're on a similar path. I mean, I've seen you just develop and grow and just become so, like, just when I think about, you know, a couple of years ago when we were sitting at Dr. Amen's, you know, seminar or whatever, compared to the amount of knowledge and experience that you've created for yourself now, it's just like, oh my God, how was that like 3 years ago?
Yeah. I mean, there have been moments where I would not have, like, if 3 years ago me, and I'm just going to be very real with everybody here right now, if 3 years ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago me was sitting in the room and just heard everything that I said about how, you know, there is life beyond mental illness and also some of the other stuff I'd said, I would have been like, mm-hmm, Like there's this woman named Ruth Socoup. And when I met her late 2018, she described herself as a depression survivor. And I was like, I don't buy it. It's like, I really wanted to, though. I really wanted to. I was like, what do you mean you're not depressed at all? And she was like, I was like, what do you mean by that?
I feel like that says some more about your brain than it does about hers.
Oh my God, yeah. And so, like a few years ago, like I didn't even think that this was possible, let alone possible for me.
Wow, yeah.
Which is like what nearly every depressive is going to think, is that like, oh sure, like that might be possible for like someone else, but that can never happen for me. And there's one person that actually comes to mind a lot as we're talking about this conversation, if I could reference him or bring him up and go dark for a second, but it's all in pursuit of, it's I can't talk to him anymore, but we could talk about him and we can talk to other people. So seems like a green light. But 2.5 years ago, somebody really, really close to me. Oh, wow, this is so funny. Just like, I'm looking out the window and all of these like little fireflies, like a swarm, as I brought this up, a swarm of fireflies just came to my window and they're all like just buzzing around. There's like hundreds of them. And so they're like, yes. So I guess this is good to talk about, but
good moment. Go
yeah. So, 2.5 years ago, someone really close to me, like by and large, my biggest supporter, took his own life. And I did not even know that he was struggling with those types of thoughts. And the first time that we had a real conversation about this was July 4th, 2016. And he told me, Jade, I'm schizophrenic and I found out that it's not my fault. My parents told me that it was my fault because I was a bad person because I did drugs. And I was like, whoa, F your parents, dude. Like any shred of respect I had for his parents just went out the window, because that's everything that's wrong in the world, is when we have somebody who has a brain health issue and we tell them it's their fault because they're a bad person, when that is just the most false thing on the entire planet. And so what haunts me, though, is that, when I would get those phone calls from him in the middle of the night that were like, I'm done, I'm ready to go, and he's flipping out, I would say to him, I need you to consider something. If you want to go through with taking your own life, go ahead. But wait until you're happy. Wait until you're calm. Don't do it tonight. Wait until you know that you actually want to end your life because you want life to be over, not because you're trying to get out of pain. Not because you are upset right now. I don't want you to do something permanent because you are temporarily upset. Now, all right, I have and I've done work around this. Like, I have compassion for myself for saying that. Forget everything I just said. It has nothing to do with what you say to him. Is like, get a freaking brain scan. Get a brain scan. Just get your brain scan. Take my credit card, run it. I don't care. Let's look at your brain. Let's look at what's going on. If we scan you and all those brain structures are functioning normally, and you're still like, oh, I want to kill myself, I don't want to be here. Okay, that's one situation.
Would that even happen, though?
No. It would not happen. It would not happen. What it would show is this X pattern of you can actually see PTSD and suicidality on a brain scan, and there's treatments now, and there's advances and stuff, but it just haunts me. It haunts me that I didn't know then what I know now, and we would have had a different conversation. I mean, I got certified. I became a certified brain health coach, I think in April of that year, and he took his own life in August of that year. And so I was still like a very novice junior, like, you know, very green professional, not as feisty and confident as I am now. And the one thing that I circle back to is like, while this one person might be gone, my entire business is for him. Every conversation I have is for him. I'm very much a stoic in that sense, where I've always done a good job on focusing on what's in my control versus not in my control. And of course, by always, I mean for the past 2 years, because this was not something I did when I was younger. And I carry that with me always, that, you know, I can't change what happened to him. But and I can't get into a conversation with him, but there's a lot of different conversations that I can have, and a lot of different people that we can talk to. And there's more people like him out there. So.
Right. And you're more experienced now. And part of it is looking back and saying, oh, I wish I hadn't said that, you know.
Yeah.
We learn from our errors. We learn from the things that, you know, the mistakes that we make, and then we move forward with more awareness because of that.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sorry it was such a hard lesson, and I'm sorry that he's not here to receive the help that current Jade could provide. I really am.
Oh, I know. And it was like so close there. Oh man, with that one. But you know, some things are legitimately out of our hands, and some things are so far out of our hands that it's like, yeah, I've done work around this and everything. And
yeah, well, it completely is, it's time, and it's continued work to forgive ourselves, our trespasses. Yeah. So coming back to kind of what you teach, or I guess coach, and also what you try to live in your body with this foundation that you described through the work, you know, what you do with somatic movement, and then around the way that you live. What are the other elements here that are really important in this foundational lifestyle that you coach people in? We've got, you know, what they're eating, we've got what's going on in their brain. What are the other things? Like somatic movement is part of that. What else would be kind of in your care package for yourself and others?
Yeah, definitely. Or do you mean as far as just like micro practices that I encourage throughout the day, or
anything? Yeah, I'm just curious, like, you know, because in my program, some of it is on food and our microbiome and how do we eat to support our life. And then it's not just that as a textbook, it's that as like an experience where I'm inviting them to like develop intuition around it through their body sensing, through their somatic awareness, right? And then also there's little mindset things that come along that are handy, you know, when people are struggling with food and changing the way that they eat and being different from other people, you know, little mindset shifts that can make all the difference. So I was just inviting you to share any of the little things that you bring in that you've seen work magic for you or other people in supporting them with this lifestyle shift into a more aware way of being their bodies.
Yeah. One of the biggest pieces is always centering back to what is the goal? What is the goal here? And so this is helpful when interacting with roommates or close personal relationships, where the goal might be a harmonious living situation, but then your partner or your roommate does something that might upset you, and you know, you feel the emotion come up, and it might cause you to be curt with them or act out of line. But then you got to center back to like, what is my goal here? What is my actual goal? A thing that we center on a lot in my work is that anything that you want or think you want it because you think it's going to make you feel better. You know, and so like just for example, right now I would like a Stan's donut. And I want it because I think it will bring me joy and bring me happiness and brighten my day. But then I can just kind of sit back and be like, is there another way that I could feel happy or joy? Is there something else that I can do? I like encouraging my clients and students to reconnect with nature and tune themselves to the rhythm of nature, because I don't believe that anyone doesn't like nature. I just feel like they have had experiences in the past that maybe weren't conducive to the best situation. But I mean, I'm a very physically active individual, and I thrive on surfing and climbing because no matter what I'm stressed out about, the wave does not care. The wall does not care what I'm going through. Gravity doesn't just turn off because I'm having a bad day or because
it's reliable, right?
Yes.
It's grounding.
Yes. Yes. And so climbing and surfing is not going to be for everyone, but I try and help my clients find the stuff that is going to work with them and tack it onto stuff that they're already doing.
I love that.
So a lot, like when my clients tell me this is their favorite example, but I encourage them to work on their posture while they brush their teeth because they're doing it anyway. They're already just standing there. We say if you have time to pee, you have time to work on your posture, because you can kind of like have a moment to just see like if you're hunching or whatever. And also just reminding people that you're doing better than you were 3 months ago, 3 years ago, and 3 decades ago. Like where are you not giving yourself credit? Life is
celebrating what you have, far you have come, instead of just looking at your shortcomings.
Yes. And one of my clients actually said this, that he was training his brain to, anytime something was going wrong in his life, to focus on everything that was going right. And he used our work as an example. And I was like, whoa, I'm going to take that with me forever.
Yeah. No, that's so powerful. Cause like you just said, we can train our bodies, and our brains and our thoughts are part of our body, right? Just as we can train our microbiome, train our gut to, digest things that, like, for me, that was really empowering to discover, I can train my gut to eat certain foods that I had trouble digesting, but there's a way through like very slow, gentle, like, moving those foods in slowly and gently, that I can train my gut to be able to break things down. It's like we can alter our experience of our lives through these little small steps, these little small piece by piece moments, like you just described. Like every time I'm thinking how my life is falling apart, can I look at one place in my life that's not falling apart? I was thinking about this. A friend of mine told me to do this with, when you're feeling like your house is chaotic or there's just a big mess everywhere, just have one shelf. Just have one shelf that's like beautiful. Maybe this is more for the parents out there if you have kids or whatever and making messes constantly, but just have one space in your room that's just serene, and you can rest your eyes there when you start to feel overwhelmed by your space. And you can be inspired by that to, like, take care of yourself and make yourself more serene, or you can be inspired to make your environment more serene, because it's just that one little space. It's just that one little looking around and going, oh, it's not all falling apart. Not quite.
Yes, and how you do one thing is how you can do everything. Right? And this is sort of what our brains know on an energetic level. And it's like, if we have the ability to flip out so easily, at what point as a society are we going to stop and reclaim that ability and just put it in the opposite direction and take it back? Just take it back, because what really is worth getting upset over? So it's been a really, really fun journey. And
I'm excited because I really, I see how far you've come in 3 years, and you're still so young. You're 26, turning 27 this year. It's like, Jade is really she's already rocking it. Like, what's going to happen in 10 years, like your development, it's amazing. And it really speaks to, the larger picture of the collective, self-healing movement is what I'm calling it. The self-healing revolution of people starting to understand how their bodies work, and then start to take steps to improve their well-being from that place of understanding how their bodies work. And that's so empowering. And, this term is a little antiquated, maybe. I mean, it's not that old, but like 5-6 years ago, biohacking. Do you remember when this was like a thing?
Yes. Yes,
And
I
it's not
do.
like, it's not so much a thing anymore because it's like more widespread. It's more like it's just a normal thing now to like understand how stuff works. And then, you know, like intermittent fasting or whatever you want to point to and say, you know, this little biohacking technique.
Or the thing, or the other thing that we just forget or don't talk about is that no child or baby cries for no reason.
Mm.
They're crying to let their mother know, hey, I'm tired. Hey, I'm cranky. Hey, I need a nap. Hey, I need food. Hey, my clothes are uncomfortable. But yet, when we grow up as adults, when we're in a bad mood, it's like, oh, I'm a shameful person. Oh, why does this always happen to me? Da, da, da. It's like James Porter said, you can't hang stress on a loose body. You just,
Mm.
you just can't. And one of my clients and I were actually just talking about this the other day. She's like, yeah, I had an anxiety. I was having an anxiety attack. And then I realized my leggings were too tight and I changed and I was fine.
Like her leggings were too tight and that was part of the anxiety she was feeling. Yes. Oh, this is so fun. I've been experimenting with this a lot because I've changed the amount of sodium that I'm eating on a regular basis. I've cut that way, way back. And so now I notice when I eat something salty and I notice that there's suddenly this internal pressure that I'm experiencing, AKA my blood pressure rising from that salty meal. And if I'm already in like a state of stress and I do that, it's like now I'm having this experience of like, things are really challenging right now and everything's really hard and I'm starting to freak out about like life. And then I go, wait a minute, is it life? I mean, life sucks. Maybe there's something, I got a parking ticket or whatever, but like, is it just life or is it that salty thing that I ate that raised my blood pressure that now has me feeling dehydrated and, you know, my system feels overwhelmed? And if I sit down for a moment, eat a banana and drink some water, will it change the feeling that the world is falling apart?
Yes, yes, yes. In one of my journals, I'll have to find this. This was when I was in the like thick of my mental anguish and suffering. But I wrote out a contract. It was like, I will not take my negative thoughts and emotions seriously if I haven't taken my medication, I haven't taken my supplements, I can't, if I haven't exercised that day. And it was like this list of all this somatic stuff that it was like, it was my way of distancing myself from that negative emotion, be like, no, there's not something wrong with me. There's just something wrong with me. No, I'm kidding. Like, there's not something wrong with me. I just forgot these things. And
Uh-huh.
that's why I'm feeling that way. And so now whenever I get stressed out, I'm like, how can I be 5% more comfortable physically? What is the comfiest thing that I own? What in my closet brings me the most comfort? What is going to, and I really get, dead serious about that. And sometimes that looks like an Epsom salt bath every night. Sometimes sometimes that looks like, okay, I'm just going to I'm getting on the table and I'm doing somatics for myself. Or sometimes it's like, where is the nearest dog?
Yes. So the finding ways, I think if we're getting like geeky about it, it's like finding ways to down regulate and bring our nervous system back to homeostasis, whatever that like is for us, right? And there's all these different tools and different ways to do that. And when you're starting to have like one of those overwhelming experiences, that checklist that you just described would probably be really helpful for everybody to just like have on the dashboard of their car. So they can just look over and go, is it the traffic or is it that I didn't drink water today and I ate something super salty, that didn't nourish my brain, and I, haven't taken a walk or done something relaxing, in 3 days. I've had too much, you know what I mean? Any, like, whatever somebody's personal list looks like, that would give you some perspective, even for a moment, that might slightly improve your experience, right? Yeah. Right. That's lovely. Right. I love that. Thank you.
Take your body seriously.
Yeah. Because if you don't have your body, you're not here. Right? If you don't have your health, then you can't work. You can't do any of those things, that you want to do in life if your health is compromised. I think everybody's really experienced that solidly through COVID. Yeah. You get COVID now, and your whole life shuts down. You can't make money. You can't do this. You can't do that. You can't even, if you're living with other people, you might not even be able to like walk into the kitchen and make a meal or something, right? Some people experience that.
And as a society, we have it so close. We're so close so close, but just in the wrong direction. And I think about this all the time. Like, we're body obsessed as a culture.
Yeah.
Like, you know, case in point, Kim K. Insert whoever the hell you want to put there. But like, we're so body obsessed, but just in the wrong direction. Just in the wrong direction, you know? And
we're focused on the outside instead of focusing on what's inside and our experience from within.
Yes. Yes. Or like really being more process oriented and like, you know, how, like you're saying, like from the inside, but how things feel, how it actually feels. So, I mean, we're doing great, like, you know, and for all of existence, we really are doing a lot as humans, and we're, you know, we've existed for like nothing so far. So I'm sure in like 50 or 200 years, people are going to be like, oh, you ordered a milkshake and that's really not okay.
Hey, there's all kinds of, you know, creative, interesting milkshakes out there with like spirulina and stuff in them now. So yeah, maybe there'll be plenty of okay milkshakes in the future.
Yeah, awesome.
Well, thank you so much for sharing all of your perspective and sharing your heart with us today. I just really enjoyed this conversation. I think, you know, there's probably people who learned a lot about their brain and the impact of our brain that maybe they didn't know. So thank you for all of your knowledge and experience that you brought with you today.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. And I hope you and whoever's watching got something out of this. And the last thing I will leave you with is, if you would like to pull yourself back from the depths of wherever you've gone, or if you want to go to new heights that seem nice, fall in love with your brain, do more of what's good for it, less of what's bad for it. It could be that simple.
Awesome. I love that. And maybe last thing I'll ask from you is just, you can tell people where they can find you, you know, your website or anything they want to learn more about what you do.
Sure. You can find me at www.effortxless.com. That's www.effortxless.com. 2 words, not one, because you already have a job and getting out of pain shouldn't be another one. Effortless.
Awesome. Thank you, Jade.
Thanks,
I hope you have
Amy.
a wonderful night in Chicago.
Oh, me too. Bye.
Bye.